All right, well, let's get started. It is 11:33. Again, thank you everyone who made arrangements to join us this morning. We are happy to host another webinar. We feel like we're bringing another great topic to the table. Insurance, renters insurance, and a couple other things related to insurance are a hot topic right now in the industry. And so we're happy to have that discussion this morning. Again, thank you, everyone. We make these webinars short and sweet. We feel like we can provide a lot of information, great content, and education in 23 minutes. And you may ask, if you're joining us for the first time, you may ask, why 23 minutes? Well, we'll tell you all about that at the end. So we'll let our guest today is Jeff Deering. We'll have him tell us a little bit about himself, about his company. But we'll also, as we go through some of the discussions, please feel free to chime in to whether it's the chat or the question and answer section. Feel free to do that, and we'll answer any questions as we go. But we're also going to leave some time at the very end to answer any questions. And if you'd like to stick around after the 23 minutes because you want some more information, we're happy to stick around with you. So again, thank you very much. Let's get this started. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, thanks for having me here, Peter. This is so nice. I appreciate it very much. Love your company and what you all are doing. It's amazing. I'm with Renters Insurance Solutions. We typically just call it RIS. And we're at a conference with the RIS group. And I've been in property management for about 10 years. You've probably seen me around with my brother. He's got a hat, cowboy hat. And, he's been in business 25 years. I manage two property management branches right now. And for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had an insurance company, been heavily involved with that. It's been quite a ride. And so I'm here to discuss just briefly a little bit about insurance and what's going on in the insurance world with property management.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We've definitely seen you around. I'm sure some of the folks that we've got here on here today have seen you around. And yeah, maybe I should have had Greg on here. He more, more people would recognize him with this hat. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, let's jump right into it, Jeff. Insurance, very hot topic in the industry right now. A lot of
Yeah,
questions, concerns, and challenges around that topic, right? So,
yeah.
um, from where you're standing, tell us what are some of the compliance challenges that you're hearing about when it comes to insurance?
Wow, that compliance. That's a broad topic with this insurance topic. Compliance. What's been happening, it's very interesting, as some of you know, one of our compadres out there was fined a hefty amount of Texas Department of Insurance, and he's talked about that quite a lot. And so we were involved with some of that, and our products were approved and cleared and made it through that process. But it was kind of daunting. And so, and of course, we have other clients out there with some challenges. So some of the things we've looked at compliance, I guess the way I approach this with property managers is you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I kind of want to get across for you with some of the things you may not have thought of. Insurance in your world, just like it is in the property management company I'm in, it's like, okay, let's just decide and move on because I'm busy. And one of the main areas that the state boards, we've dealt with more than just Texas, even though Texas Department of Insurance is one of the leading top ones out there, is the website. You want to make sure in your website that you're not coming across as offering a guarantee on certain products, if you want to say that. That's what people get hit on, because the insurance company, Department of Insurance comes in and looks at that and says, you're offering insurance. You're offering something, you're accepting payment for it, and you're making a guarantee. And that's where these fines have actually been levying. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, people. This is serious for the insurance board, and it can become serious very quickly. So one of them I would have you look at is, are you collecting some form of premium, as they would call it, for a guarantee? Another is people aren't aware that there's actually state filing requirements for these admin fees that you do. So let's say you're doing a security deposit or a replacement insurance or tenant legal liability or so on and so forth. And for instance, let's say, oh, I just have my tenant select on their software the insurance for $9 or $10, and then we mark it up. Well, and insurance is heavily regulated. You can't just put $2 on or $9 on as an admin fee. Our insurance, we filed with the state, and we don't go and tell them, hey, we're just going to do 2 or 12, or they tell you there's this range that has to be filed. So if you are doing a insurance and then adding a random fee to that, technically that is illegal. That's something that they could tag you for. So those are a couple of areas. There's a lot of others. Mainly that admin fee is one also to look at.
Okay. In regards to the admin fee, because yes, that's it almost became I feel like it became a trend to
Yeah,
to tack
very
on some
common.
sort of a fee.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
what was the disconnect? What do you think was the disconnect there, and people felt like it was okay to do it?
I think it's exactly what you said. It's the trend. As we go to these conferences, we build these relationships with these vendors over many years, and we trust them. But as we all know, I think Allison is a great example from Enterprise. For years, we're doing our property management with our bank, and then all of a sudden this pro comes in and starts telling us about trust accounts, and not just trust accounts. Some of y'all were doing that, but the depth of them and how they overlap into other areas. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. And we just thought we were doing the right thing. These things overlap and evolve over many conferences. And we think because as property managers, we're adding fees, and that was a big trend that we had come out of Australia, 7, 8 years ago, and it was helpful, that we just thought we could do it anywhere in our company. And yet, when you look at insurance, it's so heavily regulated. When you start putting your foot in that pond, all of a sudden the eyes come to you. And that's okay. You just have to make sure who you're doing business with. I think Arcana is a great example. Great guys who offered it into the NARCM community. Great guys. They're still around. They're great. They're ethical. But the Arcana group wasn't licensed in Texas for one thing, and many other states. And within a week, they were gone. And we're all sitting here going, where are we going to put our policies? No one had horrible intentions, but the state board of insurance came down and went, wait a minute, whoa. That's not going to happen. And all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of these policies were gone overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we saw that. So what if you could pinpoint one or two or maybe even three things that people best practices when it comes to insurance? What would you say those are?
Wow, it's asking the right question. I think some of the examples are when I started out in property management, I'm looking and I go, okay, I want my tenants to have $100,000 liability. That's a common one out in the industry. And then when a policy gets called upon, I'm like, wait, what's actual cash value? What's replacement value? The tenant thinks they have $10,000 of coverage. They go and try to file that, and then they find out that their TV that's 9 years old is worth $300 because it wasn't replacement. It was actual cash value, which takes depreciation into effect. There's a lot of things. I didn't know what perils, the things that are covered, to look for. And a tenant calls and said, lightning struck, and we're looking at the policy. Oh, this doesn't cover lightning. Burglary. Some insurance policies cover burglary. What are the stipulations of burglary? Do they have to have a police report? Is there a time frame? There's sublimits. Oh, I've got $20,000 of content. And then you go find out, well, there's a sublimit of $500 on guns. So these are the things that you get with someone, and they start showing you, what does my policy cover? And what's important to you? If you're in Florida versus Idaho, a named storm is different. If you're in Florida, a named storm is huge. In Idaho, you're like, I don't care if it's named storm or not. So these are things that it's kind of like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So you want to shop 2 and 3 different, let's call them vendors, and ask these questions, because you might have a vendor you have a great relationship with, but they don't quite cover what you need for your region. Being in New Orleans is definitely different than being in Vermont for what you need for your property management company.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a way for these folks, for our friends, for property managers to uh, get a better understanding of what they may need based on their region, or how do they determine that?
Well, it is visiting with an insurance agent. And
Okay.
that's why I think that's why I love the conferences, because you can go and talk to 3 and 4 and 5 different vendors and ask them challenging questions. And then each vendor teaches you something that you can ask the
Mhm.
other vendor. And
Yeah.
I that's my favorite thing to do. Second is I ask people who are seasoned in the industry. If I've been in property management 2 years, I might reach out to someone like Dave Holt, who's with SureVestor. I might reach out to someone like Brad Larson, who's been in the business, who is teaching, Mark Cunningham, all these names that you all know, or colleagues that are 10 years ahead of you. And they'll go, oh, let me tell you what I did. And I had to switch. We did the same thing. We switched our insurance years ago from mistakes. So I would say vendors are a great resource, and colleagues who are further ahead than you are in the industry. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you touched on, we touched a little bit on best practices. We talked a little bit about some of the questions that the folks should be asking to determine if they have the right policies.
Yeah.
What do you see that maybe, and you may have touched on it a little bit already, but what do you see that's most commonly overlooked?
I think the number one area is, and two, is there things I've already mentioned. Actually, when I get on these phone calls, it's it's not understanding the actual cash value and the value of a replacement value. Replacement value is just such a benefit to your tenant. And we all want to make a profit. That's what we're here for. It's getting tighter and tighter, as we know. So we're looking for areas to increase some fees, or, have some profit centers. But you always want to make sure that what you're, I mean, I look at it, what I sell this to my family member who's renting, a college student thing. Yeah, the replacement value is such a great value for the tenant. And that's what I want. I want it to be a win-win-win. So
Yeah,
that's the number one thing that's overlooked, is the difference between those policies, the depth of that. The other is the processing of that claim.
hmm,
Almost no one thinks of that. And some companies are designed and made by property managers. They're going to have property management companies in mind. For instance, one of the things, just as an example, is when we rate someone to come on to our company, we don't want the property manager to have to slow down their process and rate each and every tenant. We rate the property management company once to speed that process up. So that's just a couple of the things that people
yeah,
overlook. They don't think through how easy it is to process. When am I going to get my money? How fast is your process?
absolutely, absolutely. And we've already got a question here in the chat, and again, in the question and answer section, we encourage
Yeah.
anyone who's got any questions to please throw them in there. We'll answer them as we go. Um, this one, first question is kind of in line with my next point, and I'm sure that you didn't think we were going to skip this topic, which is additionally insured. So,
Yeah.
uh, does the insured name in the policy have to match the LLC or name on the PMA? Is a question from Mitzi.
Oh, good question. I'm not sure about that. Let me give me an example. You're saying the PMA and the lease
Yeah,
agreement.
yeah. So insured name in the policy, does it
I
have to
got you.
match? Yeah, does that have to match the LLC or the PMA?
I
I'm
don't
sorry, or
believe it.
the LLC or the name on the PMA. Sorry.
I don't believe it does. But I can tell you this, whoever that is, if they want to hang on the line at the end, I can get that answer to them. I'm not too familiar with that. I've never really had an issue because when I get with our underwriter, they just ask for all the names. we
Okay.
just make sure we're covering all our bases,
Okay.
DBAs, everything.
So okay, so that could probably lead into probably the answer. So someone says, um, hey, I need so and so, whether it's group, organization, or name, on the insurance, and you guys simply take those requests and add them to additionally insured, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, with our company, when a property management company comes on, they are the additional insured, the entire company. So anybody, as the tenant comes into that property is added to our list. It's a master policy, basically. So we don't, that's another thing. We design this for property managers. So every tenant that comes on that property is an additional insured. You're basically the additional insured. It kind of goes back and forth. But that's the main concern, is that people are trying to track this and make sure that they are the additional insured. The PM company is the additional insured. Well, every time we bring on a property, your company is the insured. So let me give you an example. A tenant moves in, you get tenant legal liability, they burn the kitchen down. You don't want to wait on them to file for your owner. You file that. You file that because you are the insured, the property management company. And so you have control over that policy. Now, the content section of that, the tenant can file, but we file on behalf of the owner and the property management company. We're not waiting around for a tenant who's
Makes sense.
liable.
Yeah,
And basically what happens is, two insurance get together at that point.
absolutely.
But they're
Okay.
still covering, yeah.
But it accelerates the process for sure. So
Yes,
this
it
is
does.
why one of the comments here is landlord and management company should be named as additional insurers. That's pretty much a given.
Yes, it is getting more difficult though. And when a tenant moves in, for instance, we all ask for the additional insurance, and these Allstate and State Farms, they don't want to do that, which in a way drives them to us. But it's getting harder and harder to get that. And what I found is you can get a guy on one corner of Allstate and he'll do it, and 1 mile away another Allstate, he won't do it.
Yeah.
You still require it.
Some inconsistencies there. Question from another one of our attendees here, our guest. Is there a difference between additionally insured and interested party?
Yeah, the interested party is just your company being listed. So as soon as the tenant stops paying, that you're immediately notified that they're off. At that point, you should force them onto your policy. But the interest is just informing you that they stop paying. The additional insured is you are added to that policy, which is why they don't want to do it much. So our policies are very popular, as others are, because your company is the insured.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So interested party would be more of a again, as you mentioned, like a notification in the event that the policy is interrupted or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any challenges there that you're seeing from how property managers are overcoming that challenge, an interruption in policy or anything like that?
Well, they're mandating, as soon as that happens, we just transfer them over onto our policy. And it's simple because we're already approved and you have your policy in place. You're just adding a GL code, essentially. It could be $12, it could be, whatever that amount is. You add that GL code, our company picks it up on our report from your software, and they're covered, and you're covered. You're covering your owner instantly that month. As soon as that notification comes in, it's not like, oh my gosh, I got to call the insurance guy.
Yeah.
We're tracking all of that for you. So that's very helpful with having this master policy set up.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about your company specifically, the products that you guys have in your portfolio, and specifically the benefit of those products to our industry.
Okay, thank you. Well, we we are a part of a company called YRIG. It's Your Renters Insurance Group. It's been around for 40 years. I think they're the third largest home warranty, which I'm not a fan of home warranties, but they have done that in auto industry, et cetera, et cetera. And about 10 years ago, they started coming over into the property management world, and they partner with property managers because what they want to do is have, again, a win-win-win. You can share in the profits, which is pretty unheard of in the insurance industry. They've been doing this for years and years and years. It's just new in the property management. So we share in the profits of all the premiums that you take in from tenant legal liability, renters insurance, which we offer. And the newest one that's been out for a few years in the industry is the security deposit replacement insurance. And so someone will move in, you go through your application process. Once they're approved, you offer them the traditional security deposit or this replacement fee. And what the fee is doing is you're transferring lease obligation of the tenant having to have that security deposit. They're transferring that obligation back to the property manager. They're still obligated to the lease and damages, but they're transferring that property management requirement of a security deposit back to the property manager with that fee. They are not purchasing insurance. Your company, in order to protect your investor, turns around and purchases a product from us. And it costs anywhere from $25 to $55 a month, somewhere in that range, depending on the coverage you want. Once the tenant moves out, you do your normal disposition. If the tenant doesn't pay the part they're supposed to, you upload that into our portal. The exact information that you sent to the tenant, maybe your Z inspector, your two-page disposition, those types of things. And you upload it, and we turn around and pay that to you. Now, you've seen some of these companies out here who have really had an issue with that. So we are here for you to profit, for us, obviously, to profit, and for it to be a benefit to the tenant to get in. What we're seeing is the trend is going, and it's getting more and more that's our world. We see this all over the country right now, is more and more and more regulation. About a third of the United States has already enacted some form of legislature, all the way down to municipality or city. You get into somewhere like Portland and some of these areas, I mean, it feels like it's 10 city blocks have a different rule than 2 miles away. So this is property management getting ahead of the curve and being prepared to protect your owner. Because I'm in Austin, it could cost $4,000 to $6,000 to move in. And right now, as everyone knows with inflation, et cetera, we're having people sell because insurance has gone up. We all know what's going on out there. So if a tenant can be offered this for $30, $40 a month, they're still held accountable for their damages. But this protects the owner and lowers that bar of this hurdle we're all facing right now. So those are a couple of the products we offer. The tenant legal liability, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 content for the tenant with a $100,000 liability. Also the security deposit replacement insurance. Both of those products participate in sharing in the profits, which can be pretty significant over the course of time. So it's a partnership. It is a partnership, is our goal.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What are your most common, what do you hear most commonly in regards to any objections to either one of these or both of these, and how do you overcome those objections?
I think one of them would be for the tenant legal liability that I'm already doing something, and they're afraid to switch people over. So I'll use our company for example. We've got 850 plus properties. We switched all of our policies at one time. I have other companies who will switch them out with new leases and renewals. And the challenge is determining which one is best for you. We chose not to inundate our staff, and we just wanted to bite the bullet, rip the Band-Aid off, and do it. And we looked at the economics of that, and it worked for us. Sometimes that won't work for you, and you have to implement them slowly. But we're here to help you. So what I've referred to a couple of times is keep in mind this company was formed by property managers. So
Mm-hmm.
we have people that will get with you with your software. Here's what we don't want. We don't want you to have to come up with the addendum, the email to your owner, the MLS verbiage. Okay, I'll design the report in my software. We do all of that for you because we know what it's like in property management. So
Yeah.
we try to overcome that by having the answers before they're asked in that area, especially with the software. And we have someone that all he does is design a report that gets scheduled to send us who's coming on and off of the insurance. So you don't have to, you're not like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it. It's automatic.
Seamless.
Yeah.
That's great. And now being on that side of the table from the service perspective, if you was as a supporter of the industry through this
Yeah.
product, you come to realize that regardless of what it is or how simple it is in property management, there's nothing really that's you can say it's an easy lift because it does require implementation. It does require a rollout. It does require maybe even some coordination and scheduling. But you're saying, hey, we're a partner, and so we're going to have these things ready for you. We're going to assist you with what you'll need so that you don't have to worry about coming up with them or creating them or anything like that, like some of the communication to owners, tenants, and so forth.
Yeah,
So
that that's a great description. And to give you an idea that we have someone, um, well, more than one person, but any request in any email or phone call is answered probably within an hour or two, but never the next day. I mean, we're very accessible, and I know I've said this a lot, but it's really important that people understand the perspective we've built this. It's very solid on the insurance in part, but the difficulty of putting this together, the insurance is solid. It was okay. Wait, guys, with the insurance says this won't work for property managers. Well, why
mm,
not? Like because they've got enough to do. We need to do a portal. We need to do this for them. So that's well said, Peter. Because the calls I don't like or upset me is when I feel like someone's trying to design a letter or do something in their software. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't tell you we had that already. We have the addendums, any addendums, we have all these examples. And like most of us in property management, we get something from someone else and we tweak it. And we give you
yeah,
examples of what you can use within a
that's great.
framework. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, well, you know what? I personally don't know a whole lot about insurance, but I feel like I've learned a lot today. So we appreciate you jumping on here and joining us. How do we get how do our guests, everyone that signed up today, how do they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is just my email. It's Jeff at YOUR. This wasn't thought through on this part. RIS. The two R's mess people up. YOURRIS.com.
Yeah. And make sure it's RIS at the end. I accidentally did IRS last time, and that took me to a whole different went to go visit Uncle Sam, and I didn't want to do that. So
Yeah, well,
um
we have a website, Your Renters Insurance Solutions.
yep, and I'm putting it here in the I'm putting it in the chat for everyone to check out now. Um
Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Does anyone have any questions? I'd like to open it up for questions, and I am inserting the website there in the chat. It is there now. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to you could I think you could raise your hand or you could type it in the question and answer section. But if you raise your hand, I'll give you access to, which you should be able to do, give you access um to the microphone so that everyone can and there's the website one more time. But if anyone has any specific questions about about insurance today, please feel free. If not, the website is there in the chat. Jeff at yourris.com is how you can get a hold of Jeff and ask him any questions. I received. Okay. Does your policy cover tenant contents?
Yes, tenant content, yes, sure does. That's a big part. We wouldn't do this without it. Like I said, we have to have a win-win. So the content insurance is in there. That's very important. And we have different levels of that. You know, we have some people who own all their properties, and so there might be a different customization for them as the owner of every one of their properties. But for the most part, we have some entry level for $5,000 content. And there's reasons to do that. If you're coming from one policy to another, you can't hit your tenant, you know, in the face with a double fee. So we ease them into that. Remember that these all share in profits. And that's what's so unusual about our company is you actually join our company, participate in partnership with us, and then share in some of those premiums with other companies are doing, and they're keeping that part. So that's what's so unusual about this.
No, and I think that piece is great, especially when you think of an industry that's very tenant experience focused. And
Yeah,
so to be able to offer them and work with them on a policy that covers their content, I think is amazing.
right. And then of course, you know, we'll have every so often some guy who's got $75,000 worth of guns or something, and we'll within the day give him a quote, give him a portal access, and they can put their content information in there, and we'll give them a quote. And you
Awesome.
still actually, if they do that, you still that still goes back to your company. It's attached to your company.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a great chat and webinar, Jeff. I know that when we put out the topic for the month, we had a lot of interest and we had really nice attendance today as well. So I'm sure you'll be hearing from some folks. Again, it is Jeff at YOUR
RIS.com.
RIS.com. Yes.
Yeah.
And the website is there in the chat. So please feel free to visit. I'm sure you can contact Jeff from there as well. So well, Jeff, thank you so much. Appreciate
Well,
your
thank
time this
you.
morning. And I think
Yeah.
this was super valuable and a great way to keep educating the industry.
Well,
We hold
appreciate
our
it.
webinars to 23 minutes. As I said earlier, why? Well, because Pete Newbig, co-founder of VPM, ran his entire property management organization, which was at about 1,000 doors, with 23 virtual assistants. And that was a great way for him to really just create the right processes, the right structure, and the right systems to operate a successful property management company. So, in honor of his 23 virtual assistants, we keep these webinars to 23 minutes. Please feel free to visit us at vpmsolutions.com. You can find out more about how virtual assistants can help your company run more efficiently and reduce overhead. Jeff, thank you so much once again for your time. Have a great day, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.